Middlekauff! Heavy, hey!
Is that a Buck Mason V-neck you got there?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's they're a little bigger than I thought in terms of the V-neck, but I don't know if I could wear it out to dinner, but I can definitely wear it around the house.
I'll say the good thing about the V-neck, it makes the neck look skinny. It gives you a
does.
lot of neck.
Yeah, the material's fantastic.
Yeah. They're
Very
not even a
soft.
sponsor this week, but
No.
what's up, everybody? Reporting for duty. Ham after the Masters. Deebo. There's Aaron Judge just said no to Deebo money. He just got a base hit on Sunday Night Baseball. And yeah, we're starting another week, so it's good to see everybody.
I was thinking today, Rams, 49ers, like you don't want to blow your load week 1, Thursday Night Football, even though think how sweet that would be. They did go Yankees, Red Sox, Sunday Night Baseball right off the bat.
Yeah,
now
I
you
think
get
baseball,
19 of them.
I think baseball and football are in a different place, right?
Yeah.
Like football can put legitimately like Jags, Browns without Deshaun Watson, right? And we'd be like, and it could be a good game. And baseball needs to start. They need to put their best meal out front forward.
You couldn't go like Rangers, A's, Sunday Night Baseball.
No, you could not.
No.
You got to go Yankees, Red Sox, and just kind of hope you pull people in, and then maybe you sneak it in. And if they played like 22 times, does anyone notice if we add like extra Red Sox Yankees games and less Rays Red Sox games? Would anyone notice? I don't know.
It's a hell of a question. So you're opposed to Niners Rams week 1 Thursday Night Football?
No, I'm not opposed. I'm just saying you don't have to do it in the NFL. Baseball, I think it's more necessary to do it. Would you? What do you don't?
I mean, you could do the NFC West plays the AFC West. You could do one of those matchups pretty easily, and just boom, start right. Rams Chiefs, Rams Raiders, Rams Broncos, and be off and running, right? And save the divisional games for Fox. I'm sure is going to want. With Russell gone now, Seattle's a little bit less of a player, right? That's the one thing with baseball. Like, regardless who they have on their team, like the Red Sox and Yankees, like Seattle is no longer a prominent brand for them.
Yeah.
And they're hoping, you would think the Packers are still going to be a cruise to the playoff team, but there is a chance, right? You just never know. Like things could unravel, right? That would be a huge blow. The usual Russell Wilson and the Packers aren't good. You'd have to start, reevaluating your. So you probably want to save the Rams and the Niners, maybe a little longer if you could. Well,
I think it'd be a win.
The Rams are playing Thursday Night Football no matter what.
I think it'd be a win for the Niners to not play that game week 1.
The Niners feel like they always get
because Garoppolo just is a slow starter,
Very true. Just feel it'd be like Niners, Falcons week 1. That's like their start. They don't. It's usually, but it just rarely like
and a moose boosh.
Niners, Packers, week 1. They always start with random teams, right? They did. Who was it last year? The Lions. They did 1 year. Tampa.
Yeah, Niners at Lions. That was a
Niners at Tampa. I think the Super Bowl year, or maybe that. Yeah, because they beat Jameis.
Yeah, that was week 1.
Yeah. Was Ruben kicked out that night?
Was that the Ruben game?
I think so. It's all kind of running together now. So
yeah.
2019 is a long time ago in just normal time, but when you factor in the last couple of years, that feels like 17 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I got a photo. You went out on Saturday night, and somebody sent me a photo of you out. So. Oh, that's Deebo.
Looking good.
Look at that leather. That's a lot of leather.
Is that all leather?
That's all leather.
Yep. Do you own any leather?
I don't own any. No, not other than shoes. Leather shoes.
That doesn't count.
I
mean, like a coat.
No, I need a leather. Need a leather bomber.
I've been thinking about one for a while.
You've got a leather jacket. You used to wear it to Raider games.
I got rid of it, I think. But
it's like a blazer, right? It was like the spirit of Al.
I thought it was sweet. I got made fun of everywhere I went, regardless whether it was in college, then to Fresno, then to the Eagles, and then to the Raiders. Like I would bust that thing out. So I would be so proud, and I would get made fun of consistently. It takes balls to pull, most leathers off.
And it looked good on the Raiders sidelines. I'll say that.
It fit in, yeah.
I thought it was a good look.
I busted it out to an Eagle game one time, and I didn't, Roseman and Lewis wasn't a big hit. But they don't have the balls to pull that off.
Yeah, it's haters, John. Haters. I don't know did you happen to see the video I posted of the 3 guys behind Joaquin Soria, Joaquin Neiman
Yeah,
on
it was incredible.
par 3 on Saturday. And just the amount when Cam Smith on Sunday watching the Masters hit the ball in the water on the par 3 12th.
Yeah.
My whole timeline was like, yeah, bro, like, what do you do? Like, everyone know, like, just a bunch of dudes who just from their couch were reading the wind, and it just cracked me up. It's just, I don't know, man. It just cracks me up. It's like driving. Every person in their car. What the fuck is this guy doing? What are they doing?
Well, I think on that hole specifically, right? It's not that long. So even the average golfer, it's 150 yards, and they just think, why is this so difficult? Yet, for whatever reason, at the Masters, consistently guys hit it in the water. Like I saw Justin Thomas. I just clicked on his scorecard. He doubled that hole. I didn't see the highlights. I would imagine he went in the drink. Guys go in the drink for whatever reason.
What did Cam Smith, quadruple or triple?
Tripled.
Triple. So he missed the putt. Yeah, he missed the double.
He missed the double.
I did see.
Well, I think where you get really fucked on that hole, right, is there's a drop zone, but it's really close. So most of the guys like try to go back farther. That's why you see these guys hitting almost back from the tee because they want like a 100-yard shot, not a 40-yard shot.
Right.
So it's already in their head.
Yeah.
And then really you're just hitting the same shot that you just fucked up on. It's just a little less short. That's why guys have consistently double doinked it, right?
I give him a lot of credit for going for it, John. He was down like 4 strokes? It was, or was it 3? Was it 10-7?
I think it might have been 10-6 at the time.
10-6. It was 4 back. I mean, he cost himself a lot of money by not playing it safe. Second place to 5th place is $1 million difference. 1-6 to 6. 1-6-2, I think, to 6.
Yeah, he was playing to win.
So I give him credit, but man,
I think it's easier to stomach. I think a couple years ago, I'd have to go like watch the replay of the exact setup, but Spieth was leading the year Willett won it, and he went in there twice, and then Willett, took the lead. So to me, he didn't have the lead. He was well down. It's not as crazy. I thought the craziest thing that happened today is one of the all-time, and I repeat, all-time blunders in broadcasting with obviously golf. A lot of the golf media complains about it's a tough sport to cover, right? Because you got guys on every hole. It's a tough sport to show on television. It's not like football.
You're saying a lot of the golf media
baseball
complains about the coverage of golf.
Yeah, I think it's hard. It just can be,
why didn't we see that shot? Why didn't we see that shot?
And I think, and then the purists say it just turns into a highlight show because when you're watching the leaders and like, let's go to 18, it's a long putt. You're like, this thing's going in.
Right.
But I think we have to acknowledge it's not like basketball where it's all going on at the same place. Like everyone's all spread out. But for Faldo to go like, oh my God, did you see what just happened? While they're watching someone else, like that never happens in golf.
Back up and explain exactly what happened.
Well, Rory hits the most incredible bunker shot into the hole probably of the weekend. I mean, it's as good of a shot you'll see on any week of golf. It's incredible. And it's Rory McIlroy, so it's extra big. And he's having the day of his life, right? He shot 64, or that was the 64. And then all of a sudden, Faldo kind of comes in out of nowhere. We're kind of taking in this Cam Smith falling apart like, oh my God, Jim, this might be the craziest thing I've ever seen. But they're watching the other players. And you can tell Jim's like,
he goes, I don't want to ruin it, is what Faldo
was
says.
The line. Can you say I don't want to ruin it while you ruin it?
I don't want to ruin it, but that card for your birthday has $300 in it. But I don't want to ruin it. Enjoy the surprise.
Does he get talked to about that, you think, after?
I mean, I would think Nance was, or were they together on the 18, or was Faldo on 17?
I would think they were typically on the tower on 18.
Yeah, Nance would be shooting daggers through him with his eyes, I would think. I mean, that's like, we all acknowledge here that some of this stuff is tape delayed, but it only works if we all kind of treat it the same. If we, treat it the same. We have to, to me, it's similar. It's not the same thing exactly, but we, over the years, the whole thing with the NFL draft and tipping picks, like, what is this? Is this, we got to get the information out as quickly as possible? Or is this a TV show for entertainment? Right. And ultimately, like my take has always been, it's a TV show for entertainment. Like, let's keep it that, as opposed to like, Schefter's got to get the picks out as quickly as possible. World security depends on knowing just as. Now, I get knowing as fast as possible because once the information's out, like you just, it's hard to keep yourself in the dark. Like I've never watched things on DVR without knowing.
I would say the difference of that in golf, like it is just one event, and because the way the TV is set up, it's like a 2-minute delay of the information, so it just kind of gets weird fast, right?
Oh, Jim, wait! I don't want to ruin it, but wait until what you see, and then the other. It's not like they just.
He dropped. I got goosebumps. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen. Before he even acknowledged what happened. That's what he said. He said, I just got goosebumps, Jim.
Yeah. And keep in mind, at that point in time, Scotty's at 10 under, and that got, right, Scotty was at 10 under, and that got Rory to 7 under. So it got Rory 3 shots back. It tied the lowest round. Only 7 other people had shot 64 the final round of the Masters. Only 2 guys had done better. Nick Price and Greg Norman shot 63. And Nance actually did a good job of giving it the thing, but it's just, when you know what's going to happen before it happens, right there, it was brutal. It was killer.
Yeah, it was bad. And it was the highlight of the weekend, I would say. Besides like Scotty winning the green jacket, that moment, and then Colin basically 2 seconds later doing the same thing, little less, his was less difficult while still being incredible. Rory's was insane, right? He had to hit it up on the side of the green, and then it rolled all the way down. It was crazy.
I mean, I didn't even think of this until you said it while we were talking about it. The fact that Nance was on 18 watching it happen. So it happened in front of Jim, and Jim, who's the director, right? He's the orchestra. He's the guy in charge on air, bit his tongue, clearly was just going to wait and let it play out and give everybody the show. And he got like circumvented by his number 2,
I think it's a fireable fit.
HR on the stream says Jack Nicholson had it written into his movie contracts that nobody could tell him to score the Laker game because he had the game on tape at home.
I was listening to this Bill Simmons rewatchable pod on the Batman where he played the Joker in like 1988 with Michael Keaton. It took them like 3 hours to do his makeup every time they would shoot.
Okay.
What they would do is they would tape all the Laker games. So when they were doing his makeup, he would watch the Laker games on tape. Think how different the world was back then, right? They would have it on a VHS tape where they tape it. Obviously, I'm sure they were shooting in Southern California because if they weren't, they wouldn't even be able to get the game to them fast enough, probably, right? So I would imagine they shot the thing in Southern California where the games were on, I would imagine, every game. But in 1988, is every Laker game on local TV? Because when we were like in late 90s, now again, it's the Kings and the Lakers. We did not have every Kings game on. Do you remember being a kid at Channel 31?
I do. I mean, listening to the book about the Lakers, they're still in the early 80s, but like the Lakers Celtics championship that the Lakers won with Magic playing center, or Lakers Sixers, sorry, not Lakers Celtics. That thing was tape delayed live on television. Like it wasn't live on TV. And that was the finals.
In 81.
In 81, yeah.
Yeah, Jack loves hoops.
So is Jack still around Laker game? I mean,
yeah,
he found other things to do. Or
no, I think I saw him this year. I saw LeBron just tweeting about going to a baseball game. He's got nothing to do.
Yeah, I saw that too. Feels like nice weather.
Was he being sarcastic there, or being serious? I can never tell.
I mean, he was being serious, I think, but I think, yeah,
I thought so too.
JB on the stream says, who called the brutal leg snap of the Louisville player in March Madness a decade ago?
Had to be Jim, right?
Yeah, well, it wasn't the final. I think that was in the Elite Eight, I think.
I thought it was like Louis. Again.
Was it in the Final Four? Oh, maybe it was on a race.
They were below.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I think could that have been the finals?
I'm reading a story about it right here. Regional final. So regional final would be the Final Four, right?
Okay.
The sight of his tibia bone protruding from the skin left Rick Pitino and teammates in tears. Kevin Ware was the guy. Magic won the championship in 80. Thank you. But I don't. Did they show replay? Yeah, I think it was controversial because maybe they did or they didn't show a replay. I don't remember exactly what the story was on that injury.
Did you see a couple of still shots of Tiger walking down and his ankle looks like it's at an angle?
No, I didn't. Did it look? He looked uncomfortable. Well, what did you think of the week of Tiger this weekend?
I just think that he's in a lot of pain. He feels like he's grimacing. It doesn't feel like a sustainable thing. Like it's just the notion of he can put one round together. Like, I'm as big of a fan as you'll find, but like, he's not going to be able to win golf tournaments. Like, I think it's very, very unrealistic because he might be able to put a round. Let's say he's on in a warm weather and shoot 68 or 7, right? And just be in the mix with all these guys for a round. His putter gets hot. I cannot see. I saw someone tweet. I had a similar, like, I had my ankle shattered rod, and just because, like, you know, one of the famous media guy tweeted, like, why did no one ask him about his, some question about his ankle or whatever. And this guy tweeted, like, bottom line is I had something similar happen to me. I've had a rod. You never, like, that's how you walk the rest of your life.
Gotcha.
Like,
yeah, that would be my question. Is like,
he's not going to get a smoother gait.
So he's done with his rehabilitation.
I think he has to maintain it, but I don't think like
it's always going to take an hour before and after to get the swelling out and all that kind of stuff. Or
remember Navarro?
That's Peter King wrote it, and Navarro later kind of denied, right, that it was as dramatic as Peter King said. But you're right, that was a severe leg injury.
Yeah, now it was cold, like that. That's it was unique weather for the Masters, right? Like, it wasn't. It was sunny, but it clearly wasn't 90 degrees. I think the U.S. Open is in Mass. I think the PGA Championship's in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Is that that's Southern Hills? Is that?
And he's won there before. It should be hot.
But he said he might not. He doesn't know if he'll be able to play.
Yeah, I text someone that might be in the loop a little bit. He thought that he'd be shocked if he doesn't play all 4. He confirmed he's playing St. Andrews, right?
Yeah. Part of his interview was, I want to play Southern Hills. We'll see. Like, if I can.
Yeah. What if he can't move all week?
I think it feels like it's going to be kind of touch and go. It's going to be, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like this Masters experience again, right? Which is just like the week before Southern Hills. Tiger's trying. It's in a month. It's a month from now.
Seriously? Do you think
mid-May,
if Phil comes back, you could pair those two together?
I think that'd be great.
I do too.
I think that'd be fantastic.
I'd watch.
So, but why is the U.S. Open not coming up with him?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, we're talking about Southern Hills, the PGA Championship, and we're talking about St. Andrews. The U.S. Open's between those two. Is it assumed he is, or has he already said he's not playing the U.S. Open?
I kind of just assume that it's just such a brutal tournament. Why would he even want to mess with it?
Yeah. That was kind of my assumption too. But
or you could look at it; it might give him a better chance to compete because it kind of wipes a bunch of guys out. I guess you could look at it 2 ways.
Maybe.
It feels like his over under every year moving forward is 4 tournaments, and if you get 4, it's all gravy. If you get 2, it's good.
If you get the Masters every year, that in and of itself would actually make it feel pretty incredible if you only see Tiger play golf once or twice a year, right? And one of them is the Masters.
Yeah. Luckily, he's won all these, so he's grandfathered in. Because I do think he's like the 950th. He hasn't played in forever, so his world rankings. Like, the only way you get into the Masters is be a top 50 player or win a tournament.
Or have won.
Or if you finish, like Harry Higgs got in because he finished top 5 at last year's PGA Championship. Like, there are a couple of those, right? If you finish top 5,
how about being
a
US Masters champion?
Yeah, your grandfather did.
Yeah.
It's why, like, Larry Mize and Fred Couples, right?
Charles Schwartzel, who played well this week.
Yeah, Charles Schwartzel could still play a little bit. Like,
I know, but he'd been playing bad.
Like Larry Mize. Should Larry Mize be still playing? But how do you blame him? Like, he won it, so
absolutely he should still be playing. Come for the dinner. What's Scotty gonna have next year, huh?
Well, you think Texas barbecue, right?
That's something good.
Barbecue ribs.
Update on our DraftKings game from last week. Congrats to Alex Eber, who finished in first place.
How much money?
In the Ham DraftKings Masters, $805.05 for Alex.
Took our $40.
Yep. MJM finished second, $645. Mr. Marcus third, $483. Mr. Notgas fourth, $322. And down we go. I was talking to
we gave out some cash this week.
Yeah, I mean, 10th place paid $128 on a $20 entry. So, congrats.
I don't decent ROI. It's about 5x.
Where did you? Do you know? Let's see. I was
130th when I checked with like 3 holes left. My team sucked.
Did you get a bunch of guys miss the cut?
I had 2, but my other guys were so shitty. My best player was Lowry.
Oh,
Billy Horschel.
Well.
I mean, it's like, what
Horschel. Why you always take Horschel?
Well, because I mean, sometimes he has his moments.
He has one top 10, I think, in a major or something like that.
I know, but I just
And it was
thought
a
this
long time ago.
I thought this was his time. I saw
His
the same
top
thing with
10
Gary
was like
Woodland.
his second year on tour. He had a top 10 in a major.
Well,
And
part
that's
of
it.
my philosophy, and I'm going to stop doing this, is I try to zig when everyone's
I
zagging.
understand.
Like I
Should have
in
gone with
what-
Bryson then.
Well, in what world I that he was untouchable? Why would you, if you were like follow it even remotely, not take Scotty Scheffler this week? Right? He's the hottest player in the world, but I was like, I'm not taking Scotty Scheffler. No, it's too good to be true. The guy just fucking cruised on the Masters. Cruised.
You know what's funny is I'm just looking here. First place, didn't have him. Second place, no. Third place, no. Fourth place, no.
Because don't you
Fifth
think
place.
the average person just had the philosophy of like, he's probably going to be an off week for him.
He was also the most expensive player, I think, this week.
Was he?
Yeah, like him or
Yeah, I got Rahm was up there.
Because I took Rahm. Scotty, so 3.9% of people had Scotty in this game. Yeah, that's low.
I feel like Rahm's gotten a little bigger walking next to Tiger. The guy, I'm
A
watching
little
him next to
squirrely, I'll
Tiger.
tell you
I'm
that.
thinking, one guy was in a hospital bed for 3 months. Somehow, I text Hunter Mahan. I was like, "What is Tiger's diet? Like, when you were on tour, do you ever hear anything like around it?" He said one thing he was very serious about, like getting blood drawn to know exactly what to eat because he's so into like health and fitness and working out that he'll lose weight fast. So he has to eat. Like I think Tiger eats a lot of the right foods, but
Yeah.
his calorie intake is not low. Like me, I try to keep it low. Tiger needs to keep it high or he would get skinny. He would lose all his mass. But how disciplined he is. Rahm, who's just been up and at him, been the number one player, looks like he's getting chubbier. He's 20 years younger. Tiger, his upper body does look fantastic, doesn't it? Like, how did he not gain weight?
He looks. I think you and I were talking about this the other day. I would, to use a sports writer term, marvel at his He hasn't had to adjust his pants in 20 years. I mean,
And
he's got kind of jacked.
But he's been bedridden several times over that period.
I know. It's crazy. Maybe in the middle he's lost a bunch of weight. We haven't seen him, but maybe he's just fucking in the bed. But he's got a bunch of back surgery, so it's not like he's just been bench pressing for the last 10 years.
Now it's not like he can go on jogs. Like what is he doing? To me, I was thinking about this. Tom Brady has made millions of dollars, right? Pushing his like avocado ice cream. He's told everyone what he does, whether you agree with it or not. We all make fun of it. He's told everyone. Tiger, guy kind of came out of nowhere like 10 days ago that he was going to play in this tournament, let alone what the hell he's been doing. He doesn't tell a soul. I was telling you before we hopped on, can you imagine all like Bryson? I mean, we have a YouTube channel, but like those guys love like starting YouTube channels. They think like they're quote unquote brand, which I don't blame them. Bryson gets a lot of views. Again, we do the same thing, so I'd be a hypocrite. Can you imagine if Tiger just did a YouTube channel where like once a month, just like an NFL style montage video of just what he's doing? Like how many people would watch that? It'd be fascinating, but he doesn't. He would never do that. One, but two, I want to know what the fuck's going on. Like, what's he doing?
Yeah. Well, he says things like, and I watched this Jim Nantz interview he did before the CBS telecast took over at 11, and he was talking about. And then I saw this video of the day. Did you see the video of the day of him talking to the Stanford football team before their game at UCF like 3 years ago? Did you happen to see that?
No, I mean I remember that.
David Shaw went on
He's buddies with him, right?
Eisen this week and like mentioned that when they were at UCF a few years ago, Tiger came to the game, talked to the team before the game. So Stanford put out the video a few days ago. Well, Tiger didn't just come to the game. And I was talking to my buddy Ryan McGrady, who works at Stanford. He said that David did not tell the team who was going to talk to them pregame. And he just told the team, like, I get text messages from people all over the country, like the who's who, like Condoleezza Rice, like all these people. They want to know how you guys are doing. In fact, somebody who wants to check on you, who checks on you guys all the time, is here today. And Tiger walks through the door wearing a Home of Champions Stanford t-shirt.
Badass.
And KJ Costello goes, "Oh shit, it's the fucking GOAT." That part was not in the video, but he was the quarterback at Stanford at the time.
Like they did the double doors in the locker room.
Yeah, I don't know. That part wasn't in the video. I don't know. But Tiger just walks in. Tiger's got a backpack with him. He's like, I've dedicated my life to being great at golf. I have sacrificed everything to be the greatest golfer I could be. And I've reaped the benefits of it. And he unzips his backpack and he pulls out a green jacket, and the play starts going nuts. And he's like, "Coach Shaw, come over here." And he puts the jacket on. David Shaw, he puts it on, puts his arms through it. And 8 seconds, David. He like has to get it off. It feels to him like there's
I shouldn't wear
it is
this.
crawling. Like I should not be wearing this jacket, And then they went they got their
Did he put the jacket in a backpack?
in a back. It was like rolled out of a backpack. It was hilarious. Just crumpled up the way you would put a hoodie back there on your way to a weekend trip.
Stanford lose that game?
They got killed because remember Gabriel Davis roasted them.
The dude on the Bills?
Yes, the dude on the Bills roasted them that day.
I mean,
Paulson
UCF's,
and Deebo.
in fairness, UCF's pretty good, right?
Yeah, it turned out they were good.
Yeah.
And Stanford got better as the year went along. But but the point is that Tiger
were they
says
like in their
stuff.
pads? Was this like pregame?
Yeah, it was pregame. He says stuff in the Nance thing I watched today too. That's just basically what he's saying is I do whatever I push my body to the limit. I'm willing to do what it takes. But like you said, like we don't even. What does that mean exactly?
Did Ray Lewis
really
pissed
know.
off for greatness? Wasn't he talking to Stanford basketball? NIT?
Yeah, it was Stanford. It was Stanford pregame.
Yeah. They got some pretty good talkers.
Pissed off for greatness.
That was good. NIT. Tigers. I'm gonna have to make a note and go watch that.
Yeah, Stanford football tweeted it this week. So it was good.
Didn't you did the Stanford game? Said who's their starting running back?
Emmitt Smith Jr. looks good.
Better than Barry Sanders' kid?
EJ Smith, yeah. I mean, like he's going to be their starting running back this year.
He's like a legitimate guy.
Touchdowns. It was a big deal when he committed to Stanford
from Florida,
ago.
right?
Yeah.
So he chose over the SEC schools to come here. That's pretty.
He looks good. He looks fast. I mean, it's a spring game, but he looks fast. Scored 2 touchdowns, 1 out of the slot. Shoop, shoop.
That's a small. I got to give Emmitt a lot of credit because it would have been really easy to go to the SEC, right? The guy, I mean, they live in Florida. His dad went to Florida. I don't know. Was he like a big recruit?
Yeah. I'd have to go back and look. I would guess he was a 4-star because I remember the day he announced it was a big deal. EJ Smith.
EJ Smith?
24/7.
Is his real name Emmitt?
Yeah.
Emmitt James. Jr. Emmitt Smith Jr.
Yeah. Yeah. He was a 4-star from Texas, from Dallas.
Dallas, not Florida.
No. But he was
that makes sense.
No, he was the 15th ranked player in the state of Texas,
which pretty big deal. Do you have his rivals up right now?
Yeah,
who are
Florida, Georgia, A&M, Alabama.
I give Emmitt a lot of credit for sending his kid to Stanford, or I mean, at least influence. Saying, "Hey, man, you should look at this."
Somebody said Emmitt really wanted him to go to Florida. Emmitt was there. They got this tight end. Stanford, they got a tight end who played for Trent Dilfer last year, who caught 2 touchdowns in the spring game. True freshman. Stanford, things have changed. Yeah. Like they get a few guys in early, and then they got this pass rusher from Matter Day. Actually, funny story. You'll enjoy this. Before
Trent Dilfer's must have like a legitimate program.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus.
Turns out, have you heard of this? Maybe people listening to this have heard of this. Stanford's got this pass rusher who's legit, like major 4-star, early enrollee, and
true freshman,
true freshman, and one of the things I guess he's hit the quarterback a couple times in spring.
Like
turns out
him to the ground,
yeah, or just like hit his arm, like gotten a little too close to him,
Yeah,
and David Bailey's his name, and well, turns out Modern Day High School, maybe there's other people out here that do high school football that I don't know if you're familiar with this. The backup quarterback is live during practice.
Oh, my God. How unfair is that? That's fucked up. Man.
Is that messed up or what?
I mean, just like Rudy. What are we doing?
Starting quarterback, can't touch him in practice. Backup quarterback is live.
So that's his thing. Like, I'm getting used to this.
He's like, yeah, I'm sorry. He said it. He's like, I'm not used to it. The backup quarterback was live in high school.
I've never heard of that anywhere. That's crazy.
Is that crazy or what? I've never heard of that either.
That's insane. Now, would it shock you if I told you, like in the SEC, the walk-on quarterback can be live sometimes against first team?
It would not. It would not.
That's pretty unfair. I mean,
I need some high school football people to tell me if that's DM me and tell me if that's a real thing, a regular thing, other places.
Not only am I live, I'm with the backups
against the ones.
So
I'm the scout team offense, basically.
I got David Bailey. This guy's 4-star coming at my ass. There's been some screaming matches too with like coaches, like get him off the quarterback.
Sean on the stream, high school coach here would never do that, but we're much lower end than Modern Day.
Clearly works for them. That does feel messed up, though.
That's fantastic. Ryan says, I love when Dilfer comes on Colin's show and flexes his high school football program. They don't lose many games. LOL.
That's
Kurt
funny.
says, it's bothersome that Deebo isn't working with Trey. Then again, his kid is closer to Florida, I hear. Guess Ayuk will be the main target. Now, let's get to that.
Let's dive into Deebo.
I love those off-season dynamics. Before we do, John, let's tell the people about Manscaped, the best in men's grooming. Go to manscaped.com. Use the promo code HAM to get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. It is spring. It is time for spring cleaning.
Oh, you better believe it. Lawnmower 4.0s, the most precise shave. Did we mention, Guy, that it's waterproof as well? You got USB chargers. You got it's fantastic. You and I have been using it, trimming balls, trimming backs, trimming butts. It's just a fantastic trimmer. My butts, I got more hair on my
The three
butt than I
B's,
do on my
John. Those
head.
are the three B's.
We also got the what's it called? The weed eater. The nose hair trimmer.
Mm-hmm.
It is just I can't the weed whacker. It's just fantastic. Clears all the holes, the nose, get those nose hairs because you don't want those out to dinner or a date or
Nope.
business
I had
meeting
one
and you have
today.
the bad luck. And it's very unhealthy, right, to do the tweezers. People have gotten
Very
infections.
dangerous. The finger tweezers, especially, that's dangerous.
Oh, very dangerous. So right now, Manscaped, guys, Testicular Cancer Awareness Month. So keep that, everybody. We got a lot of men that listen to the show, so partner with Testicular Cancer Society to bring awareness. So it's always good to get checked. I need to go to get I haven't got a physical in a couple of years. It's always just smart to do that. Health is wealth.
I did not know, John, it's the most common form of cancer in men 15 to 35.
I need to get checked out.
How about that? Wow, I did not know that. Manscaped giving support to fighters, survivors, and families impacted by testicular cancer as part of the We Save Balls initiative. Get yourself in spring shape. Let's go. Okay, sun's out, buns out. 20% off plus free shipping with the code HAM at manscaped.com. 20% off free shipping, code HAM, manscaped.com. This is the good stuff. They sent them to us a lot. We've been using it for years. Years.
Love them.
Time to throw out your old hygiene habits, upgrade your life. Manscaped.com/ham.
20% off.
All right. On to Deebo Samuel, John, who we talked about this. Clarence Hill tweeted that Deebo covers the NFL, covers the Cowboys for a long time. He tweeted that 49ers wide receiver Deebo Samuel wants to be the highest paid non-quarterback because of his impact and versatility. Who can argue after what he did in 2021? I think there is an argument. We've talked about that this case is pretty complicated because of how good he was, but what a short period of time he's been that elite.
Just to clarify, do you read that tweet as meaning like more than guys like Myles Garrett and Joey Bosa and eventually Nick Bosa? Is that like his mindset? He's not just talking wide receivers or offensive players or even like Trent Williams, the guy that he walks out with Super Gremlin with.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's reasonable to think that he wants to be the highest paid receiver. To me, if we start talking about he wants to be the highest paid non-quarterback, then my question becomes, are we talking about guarantee or are we talking about average annual value of a contract, right? Because if we're talking about total guarantee, that seems insane to me. If we're talking about average annual value with a contract, then I guess I could understand that. Like if he's just saying, hey, man, I want 35 a year. Like if that's the way, feels like it might be an emotional time for Deebo right now. Seeing a lot of guys get paid.
4 years, $100 million, 25 a year, and 28 guaranteed. Who says no?
Yeah, Deebo, right? How do you read that?
I read it as I think we know this team pretty well, right? The way they negotiate, and there's negotiations with quarterbacks who we've seen the 1 year they had Jimmy, right? They had to give him a lot of money for 5 career starts. He played quarterback. We saw last year with Trent Williams. Now, granted, they were negotiating or, there was supply demand, right? So it was going back and forth with the Chiefs, some other teams, which drove up the price a little bit, but it was clear he was going to get a shitload of money. They know they're going to give Nick Bosa a boatload of money. I would say, though, historically, when it comes to non-premium positions, and this wide receiver now has become one, they'll negotiate, and it'll get ugly. Did a little bit with Kittle. Fred Warner was relatively easier, but as we've talked about, those two guys, like linebackers and tight ends combined, their contract guarantees won't equal Devontae Adams. So these are relative easy positions to do. I just think my gut, and I have no inside information on this, their initial offer to Deebo Samuel had a guaranteed number that was probably high 30s, low 40s. His agent tells him, and then over the period of time, and let's just say it happens at the combine, right? When you're just kind of throwing out some initial numbers. Well, then over the next couple weeks, it felt like you get paid, you get paid, you get paid. And Deebo's like, are you fucking kidding me? So money's all relative. If whoever's listening to this, if you think you're pretty valuable to your company and they offer you $100,000 to work at the job, and then all your other counterparts that do jobs similar to you or you view yourself as equals to them make $450,000, that $100,000, even if you were just previously making $50,000, would immediately become offensive. So I understand putting myself in his shoes, but I am on the Niners side on this one, right? When it comes to I'm not giving him $70 million. That's just not an option. It's just not. But I understand where he's coming from. And as this plays out, we're just a couple weeks away from, I think, the team reporting. The story is going to either grow or it's going to kind of simmer down, right? But right now, I get where he's sitting as I think everyone listening would be offended, I'm sure, by the number they gave him. Even though, I bet in the Niners' mind, they're like, "What? You've done it 1 year," and they're right.
I can see it being maybe emotional is not the right word for Deebo, but it became, I think, it felt probably pretty personal, and I think the situation that you laid out is very believable in terms of what the initial offer would have been. And then you sit down and you look at receiver. And I don't know if he's sitting there going, I'm better than that guy.
What if it's like a 4 for 90, 39 guaranteed, extension, something like that, right?
John, you could even go higher. You could make that number 50 guaranteed. And I bet he'd go, but he got 76. He got 70. And I'm 50?
But number, but we know the number's probably not 50, right?
No. But what I'm saying is I think you could bump the number up to a number we don't think the Niners would offer, and it would still be taken offense. However you want to describe it. I think it's probably a pretty jarring couple of weeks, and he might be reeling a little bit.
I just carried you motherfuckers to the playoffs.
Exactly. I played run. I did what you asked me to do. I became the wide back. But in a sport that it's really hard for how often do we talk about guys carrying a team to the playoffs? It's not a quarterback.
It doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. And I just carried you to I just played basketball. We just played basketball. That's what I just did.
I'd say the last guy that stands out to me was Adrian Peterson with that Christian Ponder team where he ran for 7,000 yards.
The team. He carried the whole year to the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
But that's the team. That's the team. That's the one.
And Adrian was always the highest paid guy, right?
By far.
So, yeah,
I could see
but how does this get resolved? Because I don't see them without him playing more ever just coming to okay, we'll end up giving you 68 or something. To me, their offer is not going to budge. So to me, I feel this could get uglier.
The question is, and you said earlier, it got kind of ugly with Kittle, I think is how you phrased it.
It just took a little while, but it wasn't like
in the end, there were no scabs. Right.
No.
There were no deep cuts from that one. The first question we have to ask with this situation with Deebo Samuel is, what is Deebo Samuel willing to do? And how far is Deebo Samuel willing to go? And is he willing to try and force a trade? Is he what is he willing to do?
Why?
That's where these always start.
If I represented Deebo Samuel, he would never take another live rep until we had a contract. Now, whether that's a team-friendly deal or a us-friendly deal, there is no rep going. And I've gotten a couple texts with people that are like, well, how's he going to develop a rapport with Trey Lance? Deebo don't give a fuck. He'll worry about that once he gets paid. That's how I'd be looking at it if I was on the Deebo. We'll worry about that once we get our money, and then we'll deal the rapport. But right now, this is about us. This is a business. We're going to separate it. I would not, under any circumstances. Now, depending on the relationship, whether you do the hold in or hold out, but there are no live reps. That would have to be the advice, right? And you could even argue in the mandatory mini camps, right? Running around full speed like an ACL or something. I could not recommend him doing a live rep. Could you?
No, absolutely not. Not if I was really serious about, okay, Deebo, we don't want to, just to be clear, we don't want to take 40, we don't want to take 51, right? Because we could get $51 million. Like, we could play it out, push them a little bit. We can get them up from 39 to 51. They'd be happy. But here's the other thing. Like, if you're out there taking, live reps because you're taking one for the team to help out Trey Lance, just know this, and this is what I'd be saying if I'm Deebo. You guys need me to help him. The guy that's taking
more than I
snaps.
need him to help me.
That guy who's making, what is it? What's Trey Lance making this year? Twice what Deebo's making, probably, right?
Yeah, I mean, I
maybe more than twice.
Isn't Trey Lance making
$7.5 million?
Yeah.
So what's Deebo making? Probably almost making 8. Deebo's making 4.
Is he making 4? I'm looking it up right now.
But it's that's part of it. It's like, wait, you need me to help him?
Yeah, you're right. He's on the hook for 3.9.
So the guy's making almost twice as much as me. He's making twice as much as me, and I need to come help him. No, that specifically would be one that would get under my skin. I think all the other receivers and the market and all that, you need me to help him, and he's making twice as much as I'm making. No, dude. Now they'd be like, fine, look, come for 51. You'll be making more than him then. Right. And then it becomes, there's a lot of dynamics here, but I think part of it is everyone looks around the room and goes, we couldn't have done it without that guy. Like, say what you want about Nick. He's going to get paid. And Trent Williams, he's a star. And George, they couldn't have done it without me. If I'm Deebo, and he is justified in feeling that way, John. I think Deebo,
he's right. He's right. So it's a very, I think you said it last week, it's a very complicated situation. It is not a black and white. It's a lot of gray area in this whole thing. I'm usually tend to be anti-player, but just more teammate. But I understand because most of the stuff's relatively easy. Like Tyreek Hill, they're going to get paid a lot. Like that's just pro team, pro player. It just works out, right? Myles Garrett, boom, sweet player gets paid. It's an easy one. This one is just, even George Kittle, it's like, what are we talking about? A $5 million guarantee here or there. It's not even that big a deal, right? This one is just, I understand where the Niners are coming for 70 million, what he wants, even if it's just like, you just want what those guys just got. Like, I can't give you what those guys just got because you have not done what they've done, even though you did in a 10-game span what they've done. It's a weird.
Well, when you
situation.
invest in something or somebody, right? Like, there's probably no better time for Deebo to make the most money he'll ever make in his career than right now. If we were to say, like, how good is he and how much should he be making? But you don't usually make your most amount of money when you're at the very beginning of your prime, where it feels like right now Deebo is like just past the very beginning of his prime, whatever that's going to, if it's 2 years or 3 years or 8 years, whatever it is. Like, that makes the most sense to make the most money right now at 26 years old. Right? That's what makes sense, but that's usually not how this works.
Well, I'm not comparing him to this guy because this guy kind of went off the rails, but this guy hit the ground running. He was a second-round pick, and he dominated. And Michael Thomas, they gave him a boatload of money, and what the hell has happened since? And again, I have more confident. I don't know the guy personally, but just watching him last year and what I've heard about him on Deebo Samuel than Michael Thomas. But like it's not just a guarantee to work, right? The Saints are a good example. Remember Michael Thomas got to the NFL, and by the second year, he's catching like 150 balls. People were like, this guy is going to just have the greatest career of all time. I haven't seen the guy play in like 2 years. They hated him. They thought he got surgery on company time, and he was yelling at Sean Payton. It just became a disaster. So sometimes I do believe that teams, well, I don't believe it. I know it. It's the thing you ask as a scout. And it's the thing you never truly know because, Deebo's a millionaire, right? He signed as a second-round pick at pick whatever he was, 36, for almost a $5 million contract. So by the time he's 26, he's made millions of dollars and probably got some whatever endorsements off the field. Like he's not hurting. Like he can pay the mortgage. He's paying the bills. He's got cash in the bank. He's got some sweet leather pants and chains. He's got some cash. But this is where I go, you will never take another snap. And this is where the game has changed a lot. When we were kids, and I would say even up until when we were at Fresno State and then the first kind of year I worked at the NFL, I think it's changed dramatically. There's been a couple remember how often in the NFL holdouts would happen? A guy would not show up. Emmitt Smith had a famous one and held out into the season. That was the only play for like the majority of the league was a motherfucker. It was pretty team friendly. I wouldn't say it's shifted to the NBA, but it's become a little more. There's more equality on the sides, right? Now the players have a lot of juice. The money's huge. If you have the chance to get $50-60 million guaranteed when you've only made on the field 4, or by the end of this year, it'll be actually his career earnings will be, because this year was pretty good, would be like $10 million because he got $4 million. I think because he made an all-pro, you get tendered, you get a little bit more money that last year. But still, the difference of 60, 50, it's why TJ Watt, he had been a first-round pick, but the amount of money he had on the line, his agent had to tell him, you can never take another snap in OTAs, because if some random backup offensive lineman falls into your leg, whether we end up getting 88 or 95, whatever the number is, that number disappears. And this is not, and listen, when Emmitt Smith, like $7 million or $12 million back in 94, money's all relative, but the money now, even relative with it, is outrageous, right? There is just too much on the line. Because the other thing I tell Deebo, if you are healthy with whatever contract you play, you won't just get the guarantee. Like, you might make $100 million, right? Like Devontae and Tyreek, whatever their guarantee, they've been just banking every penny of their contract. Diggs hasn't been taking pay cuts, right? He's just thinking, and in fairness to those guys, they're not thinking the $70 million that we talk about. What do you think Devontae and Tyreek, like, I'm going to make 140. I'm going to make 120.
They're not thinking about, you're saying they're thinking about the total value of the contract.
I play the whole time. Like, I'm not going anywhere. Now, it's really just it's a safety mechanism because of the sport, but in their mind, and I'd be thinking the same thing if I were them, like, I'm banking every penny of this.
Yeah.
But regardless, those guys were already super rich the moment they signed, because they've already had a second contract. If I'm Deebo's representation, you could show up if you want, but we're doing the hold in. Now, that's hard, and I mean, it's got to be really awkward, but I think that's kind of the move the high character guys that are team friendly did. Aaron Donald, though, held out twice, in his prime, right? Remember Khalil Mack? He held out the previous year, then showed up, and then that second year held out, and then he finally got paid.
The Hard Knocks
year, got traded. Yeah.
Right? Wasn't it a Hard Knocks year that Aaron Donald was holding out?
Yeah, and I mean, for both those guys, wasn't it the right move when it turned out $87 and $90 million? Like, think how many people run businesses right now, small businesses all over America, that would sell their left fucking right toe to.
Wait, why did you switch from left toe to right toe?
Well, because I was going to go left nut, and then I was like, it's a little vulgar, but we do have Manscaped today. But then I went right toe. But then I was thinking, because Tiger was in my head, so just to sell a business for $20-30 million, just change their family's life. $90 million?
Yeah.
I just think it's under no circumstances could I take a snap.
Randall on the stream asks, is it a given that he has to be signed to an extension now? Why is it expected by him to have the team sign him before the contract is complete? Well, you're coming into the last year of the deal, right? Which is typically when you start to do it. A team wants to avoid you getting a free agency or avoid having a franchise tag you. And so there are situations where it makes sense for everybody to do it now, get it off the table, get it out of the way. Because if you're a player, you are risking things a little bit if you play on the last year of a contract where you could get hurt and then you have no contract and then you're trying to get paid coming off an injury or something. Like, we'll see what it looks like for Odell Beckham this year, right? Like, if Odell had signed some extension when he got to the Rams, it would have been less, but he would not be worried right now about what his next contract is going to look like.
Yeah.
So that's anything else you'd add to why is it a given that he has to be signed now?
Well, because I think the top players that aren't first round picks at all the positions usually sign going into their fourth year, because it's smart for the team. You get the start. I mean, we're talking, you're not extending like, average players. You're only extending all pro level game changers. I mean, look, Devontae Adams, extended his contract. Tyreek Hill at that point in time in their career. You extend the guy the first chance you have, because that deal looks better in 2 years if he maintains that level of play. Now there's risk involved, but
right. And he takes it because it's security. And
if you ask the Niners, what would they choose to do? They would choose to play this year out. But I just think, and that would have been an old school, like Greg Papa in the 90s, Al Davis, like they loved that type shit. That's just not an option anymore. That to me, what I was saying about how the NFL, the team having all the control, have bridged a little bit with the power of the star players. But again, they need to have the pitch of like, if he just shows up and does everything, it lessens the Niners' burden and desperation to do something, right?
Yeah, if somebody's going to work for you for below market value and not ask for more, are you going to volunteer a raise?
No.
Why do you tip when you go to a sandwich shop, but you don't tip when you get a sandwich at Safeway, the sandwich counter? You ever got a sandwich at Safeway? There's no tip.
I have, yeah. They're pretty good.
They are pretty good. They're like actually like $7. They're like cheap. They're like $8. Sneaky.
Unreal price point. Like you go there over. Yeah, good point.
Yep, it's a sneaky. It's a blue collar lunch spot, John. It's always somebody in a safety vest in line there.
That is a good sandwich inflation hack right there. Instead of going now, again, we support Ike's or Mr. Pickles or whatever, but you're paying $19 when you get the same sandwich or a similar sandwich for $8.99.
I'd say your bread's probably a little higher quality. Maybe your meat's a little. I don't know, but
I'm never disappointed with the Safeway sandwich.
No, neither am I. But there's no tip option.
I might go to Safeway tomorrow.
I think it's better than Subway.
Can I eat there for under a $10 bill? You think the sandwich, or is it like $11.99?
No, I think you might be able to. I got one. It's been a few months. I don't remember what it was, but I remember getting one several months ago. Maybe it's
like a turkey or chicken sandwich or something.
Just a turkey sandwich. Yeah. I don't mess with their like grilled chicken fake. I don't quite trust that necessarily behind the counter. Same with Subway. Their chicken looks.
Yeah,
but just a turkey sandwich, it's turkey. It's all the same. It's all the same turkey for the most part, I think. So,
what do you think about saving the mailbag questions for midweek?
Yeah, we could do that. We had some mailbag questions from last week that we're gonna carry over to this show. We could do that.
We've already gone like almost an hour.
Yeah. Can I say something about Adam Schefter? This is a little hairy situation, but
I got something after that I want to hit on.
Is it about Dwayne Haskins?
Yeah.
So
but not involved with Adam.
Okay. I mean, it's we don't have all the details as we do this Sunday night shitty situation. Adam got a lot of flack. I thought rightfully so, understandably so. For those who didn't see his tweet about Dwayne Haskins when the news broke that Dwayne was killed. I think it was something like Dwayne Haskins who struggled to maintain an NFL career, or it was something like that.
Struggled to like find a footing or something.
Struggled to find his footing. Struggled was in the first sentence, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people just people who don't know Dwayne, and then like a lot of people with like 58,000 followers that do know Dwayne Haskins or more gave Adam a lot of criticism. Did he delete that tweet and then kind of rephrase it?
He did. I mean, one thing he's battled a little bit, right, is Ohio State has a pretty big presence of famous people.
So he's getting hammered.
Destroyed.
Yeah, he's getting hammered. And I thought it was in poor taste. I do. But I also like the first thing I thought of was Schefter.
Did he break the story, you think?
I don't see. That's a good question. If that's the way you break the story, that's even a little more uncomfortable.
He was the guy you would text me, and I had seen it before you would text me his tweet, but I was kind of like dozing off. So
yeah, really... I just so the one thing I'll say about it, I thought it was poorly done, but I don't know. It's not even that I'm defending Adam. I do think Adam. This is just my theory. He is he is a journalist, right? He is a newspaper journalist. If you read an obituary that a family writes, that's different than, the obituary that a reporter writes when somebody famous dies. And I've actually always been a little uncomfortable by this. Like you've heard people say, famous people, they do something that fucks them up, and like one thing will be like, God, that's going to be the first line of my obituary, right? It's like a negative thing. Like, oh, shit, that's going to be in the first line.
Like if I died tomorrow and my mom wrote, I was the greatest Raider postgame host to ever host Raiders postgame.
But that's the family obituary is different than the person who is a famous person getting a newspaper obituary.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I got you.
And my point is, this was my take, was like, I think he was writing it the way, you would write a newspaper obituary. And it's still, I'm not comfortable with like that kind of thing. It'd be one thing if it was, he had done something legally really terrible and that's what he was most known for. But that shouldn't be the first sentence. That said, if you go,
because he is, he was cut, I think, by year 2 as being a first round pick. It was a pretty polarizing story, right?
Yeah, for sure. I hate having that be the first sentence to define someone's life. But I will say this, and that was my take. Then today I just happened to read Florio's story. In like the 5th paragraph, Florio's story is Haskins struggled, blah, 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 blah. I think the problem is not saying struggled. The problem is that being the first line of like the post-mortem, which is, now it's just, yeah, anyway, I again, not defending Adam, but that was my mind went to was like, I think that's probably what he was doing. Just went straight reporter, journo. And, I know he's not an obituary writer, but I just think there's a way that every newspaper, like every journal, there's just like some journalism to it. I'm not defending it, but I think I kind of get it. I think that's what was happening, but I haven't heard him explain. But anyway.
It's also one of those things, right? It happened on Twitter where, 15% of society is majority of people don't tweet. How many people are on? But it obviously, he's unique.
I will say if I had just seen that tweet without seeing anything else, I would have gone, ugh. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Maybe I'm numb to it. I didn't think much of it. And then I realized
the problem was I didn't see it until I had already known what happened. So I don't have a real natural reaction to it.
Yeah. He pivoted quick.
Then there's Gil Brandt.
Yeah. I've had this take for a while, and I've had it with Hubie Brown. Now, Hubie, in fairness, still okay.
Doesn't have outrageous takes either.
No. It's more just an 85-year-old still calling NBA games. It's kind of crazy. I don't know. Vern, probably close to 80. He's clearly holding on for dear life, doing hole 16 at the Masters. Like, that's a pretty big job. Do you know who held that job in like 1984? Jim Nance. Like, that was Jim Nance's job. Now, Vern, granted,
Jim was 22.
I think Vern was calling it with Musburger. Like, he kind of got demoted. I struggle with older people, like holding them to similar standards. Not someone 68, but once you're talking an 80-plus guy, Gil Brandt is 90 years old. Maybe he's 80. Let me just get his. I think he actually might be 90.
While you're looking, I'll read. This is a good perspective here while you're looking.
He's 90, guy.
Oh, okay.
Gil Brandt is 90 years old. And my biggest issue, and I hope Elon just takes people out, and he will. He's already ruffling some feathers, is this gang mentality. And it's like, and I noticed it a little with Schefter. It's like this guy just died. He's 23, 24 years old. Fucking gets hit by a truck crossing the street. Just a horrific. What you think about him, a football player, is irrelevant. And the whole story on the app becomes about Schefter. It's like, this guy just died. And that's whatever. And then Gil Brandt, who said something pretty stupid. But again, the guy's fucking 90 years old.
Said he was living to be dead. And if he had stayed in school another year, maybe he wouldn't have been on the highway or something along those lines.
Yeah, and he said this on NFL radio.
Yeah.
And he's been, year round serious. It feels like one of their, now it feels like he's diminished a little bit, but I'd say he's one of their bigger guys, historically sports broad. He's been a mainstay on Sirius XM since they've been going for 15 years, right? On one of their bigger channels for sports.
Mm-hmm.
But he's 90 years old and everyone is just destroying him, which again, if you and I said that, if Schefter says that, you should eviscerate him. He's fucking 90. He can barely string together. I'm a little bit of an ageist when it comes to certain ages. Like he shouldn't be like, who cares? He's 90 years old. If you just got the pulse of just 90-year-olds in different industries and got their takes, like most people can't just, I think Warren Buffett's getting close to 90. Hell, he might be. Like whenever I see him talk, like this guy can handle himself. Most guys are not in that situation at 90 years old.
Yeah, so I've agreed with that take for a long time. I felt similarly. I also think I could view that one through like friends and family of the guy, and
100.
which is almost another category of how dare you.
But like I like this guy, but Bucky Brooks was like the humanity of this, and he quoted, it's like, Bucky,
yeah,
he's fucking 90. Like, can't you just take a deep breath? Take some, like, you're grown up professional and realize what's going on here. If you guys want to cross Adam for the comment, I get it. But like, what are we doing here? What a waste of everyone's life.
Yeah, you could argue, are we better off not giving that a bigger are we better off letting that thing just disappear into space with nobody really hearing it and Dwayne's family never having to hear it?
And this gets back on, do you see Elon might take the W out of Twitter to be Titter? And on Titter, did you see he put a poll up? Should I take the W out of Twitter?
I didn't see that.
And so the conversation on Titter, it became for like 3 or 4 hours, the tragic death of this guy. It felt, and again, this is just my timeline, but that's what Titter represents to me. Whatever my timeline is just Adam Schefter and Gil Brandt. And and that's always what happens. Like,
I agree.
This is the app's problem. You know, it's tried and true formula with any situation like that, right? If something happens tomorrow that's really bad, within an hour it becomes whoever screwed up to the story typically.
Yeah, I agree to a point. Although I will say, I think the app is just a reflection of the way a lot of people talk. So like you and I, if we were sitting together on the couch and Twitter didn't exist and the news story came on, Dwayne Haskins dies, and that's it. And whatever we say to each other would never be broadcast anywhere. Nobody else would know it. Our conversation would not be us sitting there going, man, thoughts and prayers. And then you would say to me, thoughts and prayers, man. And then we would just move on to another topic. Like, it's just not how it works. But there are times where publicly that's all that needs to be said is this is terrible.
I agree. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's where I think Twitter is just, or any social media app is just a reflection of the way that we talk in a non-public way. And sometimes things that get said non-publicly are just meant to be non-public and just stay between the 4 people that said it, and it doesn't go anywhere.
Gil did say this on NFL Radio.
Gil did say it on NFL Radio. And I think that's where, to your point, and I saw somebody say this, and you said it just now, and Fergus on the stream just said, I was too shocked to the news to really care how it was written, to be honest. And I think that's a very good point, which is basically, who cares what Adam Schefter or Gil, like, it should be about the family of the person who died in a I mean, I read an article. Oh, it was John Miller's daughter, who's a writer. Did you see this thing? Wrote a piece in the Chronicle today, Sunday. And it was just about how last year when the Giants were, she was rooting for the Giants to lose, so their season would end, because her grandmother, John Miller's mom, had COVID and was on hospice care. They thought she was going to die. And she just wanted the season to end so John could go be with his mom. And I didn't know this. John Miller's first wife had died very suddenly, like 12 years ago. So this is John's daughter is writing this, talking about her mom died at 60 years old very suddenly, a little more than a decade ago. And so she read a lot of books about grief, and that, when somebody dies suddenly, it's a very traumatizing thing. The act of not being able to say goodbye to somebody is something that survivors, it's very difficult. And I can only imagine the Dwayne situation, like how somebody dies and whether or not you get to say goodbye to them when they die can be a very traumatizing thing for people. So for that situation to play out publicly, especially, like, imagine being the family of the person that Henry Ruggs killed. Losing somebody in and of itself in its own little box is devastating, but to have that be the story all the time, and it's constantly being brought up, and there's a trial, and it's very public, and I can't imagine what it's like for those people, right? The family of the girl that Henry Ruggs killed. And for Dwayne,
look at all the public ones historically, right? The good what was the guy's name that was killed with Nicole Simpson?
Ron Goldman.
Ron Goldman.
Yes.
Pauly Class. I remember she was killed in Stockton or Lodi, and the guy killed her ripped her out of the house and flipped off the dad. It's just those type situations get very hectic, right? That's murder, but I'm just mean just sudden death. I've lost grandparents, my father. Sickness, and it's you just kind of come to terms with it as it leading up, like, this is not going well. You're just, the older you are, you're able to handle it. And even then, like I saw with my mom and her own parents who had Alzheimer's and cancer, I mean, she's still shook 20 years later, right? It all depends on the person.
Well, one thing that gave me chills this year on the stream, Demo says it's scary seeing someone that dies the day you see them. They you remember, Utah football had 2 players killed.
Yeah.
One shot himself accidentally, and the other one, Aaron Lowe, was killed at a party the day they honored Ty Jordan. And I remember seeing a picture of Aaron Lowe, like
War's number, right?
War's number, best friend since high school. And Ashley Adamson, who I know really well from the Pac-12 Network, was in Utah. They were doing like the pre and post game show that day. And I remember her telling me, I saw Aaron Lowe walking off the field, and I just watched him like, what a cool, this is what a moment for him. He walked off the field. Like 8 hours later, he's shot and killed. Right. And I remember when she described it to me, just thinking like, God, that's a wild experience. Right. Like, I think our brains, it's really hard to process stuff like that. So this thing that Haskins' family is going through, and once even just some of the details that we have, I would imagine there's going to be
Instagram like he's been training with Steve, like Najee Harris the day before. They're all hanging out, like they work out together. So those guys were all with them all week. Najee had like this Burberry outfit on, and Dwayne Instagram making fun of him being really rich the day before, and Najee's laughing. Like they don't like think about those guys. Whenever you lose someone. I saw it with Andy Reid's son when we were all with him at training camp. We spent every day with him. You just, everyone, the older you get, these situations kind of become somewhat unavoidable, which is sad, but it's just kind of the way the world. It's a jarring experience for every human being that's associated with it.
I think death is crazy because it happens to all of us. It happens around all of us. Everyone everyone we know will die, and we will die. And yet, you're kind of numb to it, when you're like, oh, somebody's stepfather died. He'll be out from work for the next week. You're like, oh yeah, well, we all go through it, but holy shit, man, it is the worst.
I know.
That like is really weird to me. And I probably will never quite be able to put that in a box where I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. It doesn't it's maybe Buddha understood it. I don't know, but I don't.
Yeah, most people don't.
It's wild. Anyway,
pod got deep.
But I will say, like, that conversation to me is much more productive than I can't believe what Schefter did.
Well, exactly.
And it makes what Schefter did or what Gilbrandt said so irrelevant. It's so,
I know,
so irrelevant. And again, I had an opinion on it. You have an opinion on it. And that's the thing. Like, there are things that happen that are irrelevant that we have opinions on, and we share those opinions, but it doesn't mean that it's more relevant than, the real thing that happened.
Well said.
I don't know if it was or not. I'm just blabbing. Anyway, so go to iTunes, leave us a review, mailbag question. We'll get some. We're playing with some different things. Mailbag end of the week. Sometimes we'll work them in. Maybe we'll start working them in during the week. Share your thoughts with us. Always on the streams. Appreciate it.
Yeah, share it with your friends, your enemies too, I guess.
Deep ham pod. Yeah,
probably not a time to have enemies. Just be nice to people this week, maybe.
Enemy pause. Let's put enemies on pause this week.
Pause on the enemies.
All right. All friends. Let everybody. You're all unblocked.
Goodbye, friends.
Goodbye.